corporate staff, everybody pays. So that would say excluding myself or any corporate staff could not participate in that. That's just not practical. So don't make a motion that says it can be exclusively EA admin or planning finance, because it can't get to the board. Nothing can get to the board without admin or corporate resources, if you will.
To me, that means we need to have a closer look at cost allocations to allow for something like that, I suppose.
And we have that coming. There's always going to be some level in every regional district, not just this, about, you know, you're trying to share costs fairly and efficiently as you can, but there will never be a perfect system. So maybe this is a good example of that. It is, yes, mostly an EA-driven and paid-for resource in this motion itself, but it isn't exclusive of corporate admin staff. Is it heavy? No. But similarly, as Gerald said earlier, in terms of, let's say, a regional function, whether you support it or not, you kind of pay. So that's where the lines are a little bit blurred. And I mean, you know, you don't take a big wide detour in it, but there's always a little bit of a crossover.
Can I just make one last comment? Is the impression I get is from Cortez and Quadra areas in particular. If you look at our strategic priorities, climate change and climate resiliency are their top priorities consistently. They have some weighting, I think, in the general board. They're not to be ignored, but we have to exhaust our resources in proportion to the overall importance to the board itself. So, I'm feeling like at this point, the issues of climate and climate resilience are very heavily and appropriately and adequately handled by higher levels of government. And I don't want to see this board go down a path where we are consuming a significant percentage of our resources on that topic. And it's not because I don't care about those things. I just know that they are being very heavily studied and analyzed by higher levels of government. And I think we got some triplication happening that goes, yeah. So I just want us to prioritize appropriately and allocate resources proportionate to the level of concern and our ability to actually do something about it. And I do understand this is something that could be integrated into an official community plan, and so could actually have very useful aspects to it for those areas that are going to adopt it. But I really think we do need to, when it's I don't want to use the word agenda with any negative connotation, but when it's the primary agenda of particular areas, I just don't think there should be a cost to the general taxpayer, because they're already paying it through their income tax and so many other layers. So, yeah. That's my comment. I don't particularly care. This is just one instance, but I think we need to be shifting our logic a little bit and just making sure we're not over-focused and letting the agenda be dominated by that topic. Thank you.
Director Wally, then Director Mawhinney.
Yeah, I just want to point out to Director Lanyon that regional reports that often come from municipal services often involve local area planning staff. You guys pay a portion of that. Whether it's adequate or not, nobody really knows. But, you know, sometimes we subsidize that. Sometimes you guys subsidize us. It all works out in the end. Staff makes sure of it.
Director Mawhinney.
Thank you, Chair. Just wanted to pick up on something that Director Lanyon said there, that it sounded like he was maybe comfortable with this opportunity for a little bit more work, and then he doesn't want a significant portion of our resources spent on the climate resilience topic, which is fine, and I respect and understand that. I just wanted to point out that the way that the board decided to frame climate resiliency and climate change in our strategic objectives is that we will support climate resiliency efforts and mitigation of climate change through local and sub-regional initiatives. And this, I would say, is something which is sub-regional because it affects the electoral areas a lot more significantly than the municipalities. And in this instance, I think that for Quadra Island, I would say that the number one natural resource that islanders are interested in learning more about and managing effectively is water and the aquifers. And I think that, the only water that we have in our wells is the rain that falls, and understanding where that the aquifers are filling and these sorts of things are really important to the long-term resiliency of our community as we do face increasingly dry summers. So I really hope that the board can find it in their hearts to support this motion. Thank you.
Okay. Still on C on the amended motion. Pardon me?
On the amendment only.
On the amendment only. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Now the motion is amended. All in favor? Opposed? One opposed? Director Sinnott? Motion is passed. You said you wanted to do a subsequent or a friendly, Director Sinnott?
No hearing from staff, that's fine, thank you.
Thank you. Number 15, Purchasing Authority Delegation.
Move receipt of the report.
Thank you. Director Wally, second. Discussion?
So, Mr. Chair, if I may, so what we did was we took the conversation that we had at the board in terms of the Recreate project and the feedback we got from the board and the interest level that they would have in amending the purchasing authority delegation bylaw. And we've looked at the Strathcona Gardens project, as we talked about earlier. It's about $70 million project. If we take the term of the project, we're looking at maybe an average of $3 million a month at times, and appreciating that exceeds my authority, but amending the bylaw that can give a specific exemption to that and create it at a threshold that wouldn't delay the processing of claims for the project, and then at the same time bringing back a summary after the fact to the board of all invoices and claims that would have fallen under a typical or the historical purchasing delegation bylaw of $250,000. So this is our solution based on the comments we heard from the board, and happy to take any feedback or questions.
On receipt, any more questions? Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. B, excuse me, the bylaw 521, Purchasing Authority Delegation be amended to increase the CAO's purchasing authority to $3 million with respect to Recreate project on the understanding that such authority may not be used in a manner that would exceed the current financial plan bylaw.
So moved.
Thank you. Second. Director Rice, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. C, that a listing of paid invoices in excess of $250,000 be included in the report to the Strathcona Regional Commission as part of the periodic updates and for the recreation project. Do I have a
So
motion?
moved.
Second. Thank you. Second, Director Rice. Discussion, Director Colburn, and then Director Mawhinney.
So I'm just wondering, because I'm wondering what happened in between our last meeting and this one, because in this one it says regardless of the expenditure limits, is all invoices over $250,000 are presented to the board. And then in this motion, it says to the committee. So will that come, where's the translation?
Yeah, that's an easy one. So we do a monthly Recreate project update to the commission, and included in that, we will do a summary report of those claims and invoices, and that all that stuff comes to the board. So kills two birds with one stone.
And that comes to the board through the Strathcona Gardens Commission
Yeah.
minutes.
Yeah, and just to set expectations, it's just going to be a summary report saying, hey, last month we processed these claims for X amount of dollars.
Director Mowini.
Thank you, Chair. And I thank you to Director Colburn for asking sort of the same question that I have, because as far as I understood it, the board does not need to provide permission to staff to include invoices in staff reports, which is sort of what the indication of this motion here is. And while I'm comfortable with that happening, I am a little concerned that, and the motion doesn't speak to monthly updates, it speaks to periodic updates, which could be quarterly or I'm not sure how often. And I'm a little concerned that, you know, at the September board meeting, we made a motion. Sorry, was there something going on that I needed to be aware of?
No, sorry.
Okay. We made a motion, and the motion was that regardless of expenditure limits, that all invoices over $250,000 were presented to the board. And this seems like that's actually changing the direction that the board has stated. And so it just seems to undermine work that the board has already completed and create an opportunity to essentially revote on something that the board has already decided.
Okay, if I may, Mr. Chair, undermine, I think, is the wrong word. There's a practical reason that at times we'll amend a motion, and we don't always meet every month at the gardens. There's times that meetings are canceled, and I don't know what the invoice frequency will be. So if I commit to the board every month, I don't know if that's going to happen. So the point of the motion is, it's not undermining the board, it's providing a summary of those invoices to the board, and I use periodic because I don't know what the interval is going to be.
Director Mowini? You're good? Director Von Esch?
Thank you, Chair. So just a question to staff. So the motion that we already passed in the last board meeting saying that invoices over $250,000 will be given to the SRD board, does that still stand? Or is it being changed now and that it's going to go through the minutes?
Well, look, let's be clear. These will be invoices that are already paid. This is just a summary of invoices. There'll be no authority for the board to approve or not approve this. This is just a summary of those invoices. And they will find them way to the board. I'm not really sure what difference it makes. It's practical that we include it in the Strathcona Gardens update, and then that just be forwarded to the board. I'm not sure the path, what really difference it makes.
I guess I'm confused as to what we already passed in the last board meeting. We passed a motion in the last board meeting saying that this is already going to happen and it's going to come to the board. And that was passed.
Yeah, because I said we don't meet every month, and I don't know how many invoices or the interval that we're going to have them on. So I can't be committed to providing something to the board every month if they don't happen.
Great. Mr. Yates?
Well, I was just going to clarify, Mr. Chair, that the motion the board made was for a report with alternatives. And I do believe staff have looked at many alternatives, this being the one that provides the most security for the board and is the most efficient in terms of getting the invoices paid without penalty and reporting to the board. So I think it's an option that's put forward for the board's consideration.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, on C, all in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Thank you. Go to 17.
On support service cost allocation, that the report from the CAO be received.
Second.
Director Rice, discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. B, Director Colburn.
that a further report with options for allocating support service costs be prepared for the board's consideration.
Director Wally, discussion?
Just one comment, Mr. Chair.
Director Wally,
Just to remind staff.
your microphone, please.
Just to remind staff that at the Cal meeting there, I had requested that you see if you could take a look at what we used to do in the past before it was changed. And maybe that's a viable alternative.
Okay, further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. 18, Director Wally, did you like to take that?
I move that the report from the Chief Administration Officer be received for information only, I think is the wording we want.
Second. Director Rice, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. B, please.
That the Chief Administration Officer not permit actions that are set out in the poverty reduction plan without providing to the board a motion for approval to move forward with an action set out in this plan, or the CAO's reasonable interpretation of how a proposed action under the plan aligns with the board's strategic priorities, and how the CAO is proposed to action the recommendations, or a summary for the board approval of actions under the plan together with any actions to be added that the CAO proposes to action.
Second.
Director Senate, discussion? All in favor?
No, I have a question, Chair.
Oh, Director Moini, and then Director Lott.
Thank you, Chair. I'm looking for like a response maybe, because we have a motion here which has substantially changed the language between the Committee of the Whole meeting, which at that point the language was not specific to the poverty reduction plan, but it was specific to all grant applications. And, you know, at the Committee of the Whole meeting, we had a really robust conversation about the long-term impacts of grant applications on the Strathcona Regional District. And I'm grateful to Director Sinnott for providing language which addressed the concerns which were raised by several directors. So I do see that staff has moved the Committee of the Whole's recommendation to a separate item.
Sorry to interrupt, Director Moini. Are you on 18?
Speaking to 21.
Yeah. No, B. C. B. B.
Sorry. Go ahead,
We're on
Mr. Yates.
18B, no?
Mr. Chairman, I believe Director Mawini is speaking to item number 21 on the agenda rather than number 18.
No. I'm speaking to number 18 because I'm trying to figure out why this motion that's here under this item is different than the motion that was recommended by the Committee of the Whole regarding the same item.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I believe it is exactly as the committee put forward. I believe the motion to which Director Mawini refers was a subsequent motion at the Committee of the Whole, which is included in item number 21 on today's agenda.
So why is the motion that was made at the Committee of the Whole under this item not here?
It is.
Why is this motion changed to be specific to the poverty reduction plan and not all grants? That's what I'm trying to understand.
Mr. Chairman, this is the motion that the committee recommended at the discussion regarding the poverty reduction plan. There was a subsequent motion speaking to grants, which is part of item number 21 on today's agenda. But this is the motion that the committee recommended to the board in terms of poverty reduction.
Okay, well, thank you for clarifying that. I don't recall it that way.
Okay. Still on B. Anyone else? Director Sinnott?
Yes, thank you. And I appreciate Director Mooney giving me a call earlier this week about this, and I did a side-by-side Word document to look, and I know the preamble portion was removed, which is not material. I think the intent of the motion is just to make sure that actions under the poverty reduction plan again, get board approval generally in case they're going to be put forward. We had some concerns about some of the specifics in there. So I'm happy with this, and I do agree that at the time we did have a robust debate because of this particular plan about further grant applications, and I'm fine with addressing it under 21. And I just want to hopefully that clears things up for Director Mawhinney.
Director Lott?
Thank you, Chair. My question has been answered through the previous discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. On B, all in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Number 19, Indigenous Culture Safety Grant.
I'll make a motion that the report from the CEO be received.
Thank you. We have a second. Was Dr. Mawhinney, Director Colburn? Director Colburn, discussion?
I believe Sean's going to present this for us.
Through the chair, Section 5229G of the Emergency Management and Disaster Management Act, which received royal assent in November of 2023, mandates us to include cultural safety and humility training in our emergency personnel training programs and try to incorporate Indigenous knowledge in our emergency plans. The intent of this grant application is to support the regional district doing this through the development of training videos based on originally developed by the Myhala, Taniel, I'm sorry if I said that wrong, organization which created Territory Huron videos of the Likwita tribes. We'd like to emulate that for other First Nations in the regional district and develop the training videos, and also host a variety of workshops and meetings to better allow us to meet our obligations under the Act. I can take any questions.
Anyone? Director Mawhinney?
Thank you, Chair. I'm curious about one of the items in the plan, which is to spend $10,000 on a consultant to review the regional district's cultural humility training program. I'm just looking for some information on staff on when the program was designed and by whom, and if the humility training program is currently being referred to and used by HR, et cetera. Because if we do have one and it seems somewhat adequate, I think that it would be much preferable to spend the $10,000 not on a consultant reviewing a program, but instead spending it on a more concrete action.
Through the chair to Director Mawhinney, this program is currently being developed in-house through staff. It is very much in its infancy, composed of 2 tiers of a training program, and the request for this grant funding is to use a consultant with more subject matter expertise to help us take it to its last step in about a year or so.
Okay, and if I may have a follow-up, Chair, I think the recent atmospheric river event, which tragically took the lives of 2 West Coast residents near Bamfield, recently really made me wonder if the $10,000 could be used for safety signage advising drivers in 2 or more languages about staying safe in extreme weather events. That was really quite a shocking loss. So I'm just going to put that out there. Obviously, I defer to Sean Koopman's expertise, but I would love to see more concrete actions.
Anyone else? Still on A? Director Lanyon?
And what is the difference between the one that will be put in the emergency plan and the existing ones that exist around here? Like, is it tailored specifically to things that come up during emergencies? Or is it just another version of the same thing?
Pertaining to the videos? Yeah, no. Very high level, 15 to 20 minutes. Here's everything that you need to know about this First Nation. So while we're also 2 months ago, the board passed a motion that we're integrating this obligation under the Act with our overall reconciliation policy. So it'll fit under both of that. So it's for all of SRD's staff. It's in no way really geared towards emergency personnel.
So, I mean, irrelevant for me to say, but it's so strange that that's embedded in a specific section of Emergency Management Act. Is it not? Is it like an omnibus bill?
Okay, moving on. On A, all in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, carried. Director Lanyon, would you like to read B?
We're still on 19, sorry? Oh, that was just receipt. Oh, gosh, okay. I move that a regional application to the 2024 Indigenous Cultural Safety / Cultural Humility Grant Program on behalf of the local government and First Nations entities identified in the October 24th, 2024 report from the Chief Administrative Officer be approved, and that the regional district commit to overall management of the grant if the application is successful.
Second. Director Rice, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm not going to bite on that one because I think Martin and Julie would like to drive home in the daylight.
Okay. Director Davis, would you like to take 20?
I'll take 20. This came out of the school district 72 liaison committee.
Oh, I apologize. Director Von Esch?
So I'll move that the report from the CAO be received.
Second.
Director Colburn, discussion? Director Von Esch?
Just to give a little bit of background on this, school districts across the province, the provincial government asked that they receive numbers from individual schools around how many students are attending, the special needs of students, and the funding tied to the schools is based on that. And that happens at the end of September. So the end of September, schools submit these forms saying we have this many kids, this many special needs, and then school districts get funding related on that. The problem across, the province and then particularly small communities is that students join late. Students join for the second semester. So you end up in schools in rural communities, but also the school trustee brought up that it happens in, Surrey and big centers as well, is that schools get filled up for the second semester and there's no additional funding tied to it. So what we're looking for, and this follows in line with what the teachers union is already pushing for, is that they basically have a second intake. So for the second semester, they do another count, and then the school district funding that they receive will be based on that new number, and just really making sure that we're getting the funding that we deserve for every student in our region.
Okay, still on A. All in favor of receipt? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. B, Director Von Esch.
I move that the regional district work with other regional districts of Vancouver Island regarding support for funding tied to K-12 data collection.
Second.
We have a second. Okay, discussion?
Discussion.
Sorry about that. This feels like it's off the beaten path for an SRD to enter into. It's too big, too nebulous. I will vote against. Thank you.
Director Senate.
Yeah, why is this restricted only to regional districts and not dealing with municipalities? I mean, I guess because we're embedded within it, but it just seems to me that, there's also a risk on the downside. I mean, if you're going to ask for more money, if you get more students, you're going to end up losing money if you end up with fewer students. So extra work with, I don't know if any real benefit, because we're losing students generally from the predictions. That's what we're facing right now.
Director Von Esch.
Yeah, I think that's a fair comment, but really I think it's about bringing equity to school districts. And if you do have more students, then you certainly deserve more funding. And as far as, where this came from, the SRD has a school district liaison committee that talks about, the issues facing schools and relationships and partnerships that we can form to move common priorities forward. And this is something that's been identified by school district trustees and myself and other members, that this is something moving forward on. And it's really about just lobbying, getting some lobbying forward that can get the province to move on their policy.
Anyone else? Director Colburn?
Well, I do appreciate the importance. While I understand that this is a lobbying effort from the BC Teachers Federation, I just don't know that it lands here. And the reason being, if it were to say, advocate with or something to that doesn't tie, what it sounds to me is like asking for the corporation to be in contact with the other regional districts and all of their school districts and try to find some common, that's a big ask.
Yeah.
I don't know that I don't, especially considering the conversations that we had here previously about capacity and where things go on the priorities list. And I know it's hard to find a pocket for that. So I commiserate. However, I don't know that this is it.
Yeah.
Director Von Esch?
Thank you, Director Colburn. I appreciate that. I think the intent of the motion here really was to can we write a letter to the provincial government? So I'm happy to change this motion, make an amendment to it that I think speaks to your concerns. So I'd move that the regional district write a letter of advocacy to the provincial government tied to funding support for K-12 data collection.
Director Colburn?
Isn't there a motion on the floor already? Mm-hmm. So this would change sorry, at the chair's discretion.
Okay, let's get through B first, and then you can make another motion.
Okay.
Okay? All in favor of B? Opposed? Okay, B is defeated. Go ahead, Director Von Esch.
Thank you, Chair. I'll move that the regional district write a letter of advocacy letter to the provincial government regarding the funding tied to K-12 data collection.
Do I have a second? Director Davis? Okay, discussion. Director Lanyon?
I haven't taken the time to read this because I was just going to vote no, having glanced at it and having some knowledge of how funding works in schools. There is already an attendance-linked funding mechanism. So if students attend over a certain number of days per year, or in other words, don't have over a certain number of absences, the school gets funding for them. And there will be a little slippage around the edges, when students transfer and haven't met the requirement at their new school. But this isn't a problem that we need to solve that I'm aware of. So I just don't want to be wasting, I shouldn't say that, I'm sorry, Mark, but I don't want to be expending the resources, even reading the stuff on the agenda. So I will vote no again.
Okay, Director Sinnott, then Director Van Esch.
Yeah, this is a regional initiative. The City of Kamp River is also got a liaison committee in which I sit on with the School District 72, and this is not something they raised with us. So I can't see it being necessarily in our interest to say that we actually believe in this type of funding mechanism or a recounting thing without further information or discussion. I just, again, unless you set out how this meets our strategic priorities and how this affects the regional district, I'm not interested in moving forward unless there's something more like formal received from the actual school district to us to assist them. Thanks.
Okay, Director Von Esch.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to reiterate this was a concern that was raised by the school board trustee at the school district liaison meeting at the SRD. They identified it as an issue. The funding for schools works by a September 30th head count, and it doesn't change throughout the year. And this is, on Cortez Island, they're 5 students away from getting another teacher, and they're confident they're going to get that in January. And this is just like a simple thing we can do to support schools and support what the school district's already pushing for.
Director Sinnott.
Yeah, I'm just going to pick up a line from Director Wally. It doesn't stop you from writing an individual letter after your attendance on behalf of a rural concern, and it may be something that's more of a concern in the rural areas. Thank you.
Okay. So on the on the motion, all in favor? 1, 2, 3. Opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4. 5 opposed. Okay, the motion is defeated.
Well, that, is that 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7? That doesn't total the amount, 5 and 3.
No, but only,
So
oh, that's true, that's true.
Just a
Can we get the
reminder to
opposed,
folks,
please?
if you don't put your hand up for in favor or opposed, you're in favor. So if we have 5 opposed, then we have more than 5 in favor. So it's helpful if
Yeah.
you're going to vote, you either vote for or against it. But if don't put your hand up at all, you're for it.
Okay, so again, who's opposed? Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 opposed.
Defeated.
Yes. The motion is defeated. Okay, we're on 21 now.
Yes.
The grant applications policy that the report from the CAO be received.
Move receipt.
Thank you. Second, Director Colburn, discussion. Director Sinnott?
Yeah, thank you. I know this was rising out of the committee of the whole, where I made a on-the-floor policy position. I didn't realize that we need to maybe have some different way of approaching it from the point of view of staff, which is fine with me. The only thing on the second part of the amendment or the motion is I would like sort of a time frame for getting back to us. I don't want this sort of sitting out for months.
Anyone else? Director Moini?
Thank you, Chair. And I'm happy that we're going to be working on creating a policy for Director Sinnott's motion. And there was one thing in the staff report which did give me pause, because it said that if we approved a policy statement, it would endure beyond the current board. And currently, directors do not have access to the policy statements which previous boards have made. We only receive a copy of a policy if staff include it in a staff report. So I'm curious if staff have an idea of the timeline we can expect to be able to access the board and corporate policies of the Strathcona Regional District. Thanks.
Mr. Yates?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I believe some of them are already on the regional district website. We'll have a look at that, but I agree it is important that they are visible and transparent to not just directors, but the public as well. So we'll look into that for sure.
Just as a follow-up, maybe there could be a further information brought back on that when we bring back the information on B.
What type of information? Like, again, it takes time and resources to populate the, let's say, the website and the director's portal on that. And again, that's just myself trying to allocate those resources towards it. So if it's a priority of the board to populate the portal and or the website with it, then that will reduce, if that's, it will take the place of another priority. So if it's urgent priority of the board, please let us know. I wasn't aware that it was, but again, if it is, then we can put resources to that, which will mean resources won't go towards something else.
Okay, still on A, Director Wally?
Yeah, just a question for staff. On our corporate server, do we have a folder that says bylaws and under that 300 bylaws listed? Is that how it works?
Mr. Yates?
Mr. Chairman, we are currently working to have all of the regional district bylaws available through the website, through the regional district public website. I'm not sure if the question relates to bylaws or policies. So,
Well, I was thinking of bylaws primarily but policies, I guess, as well. But on the website that you look at on your computer, is it just a folder and under that lists all the bylaws, or are they spread all over?
well, we internally we look at the G Drive where we keep all the bylaws.
Yeah.
What we're doing is transitioning the regional district public website to include.
I understand that.
That information. That's a lengthy process.
Yeah,
And it's ongoing.
I understand that, but I was thinking on your own access, if you had a folder with all the bylaws, another one with all the policies, I don't know how big that would be, maybe a couple of gigs, somebody could come in and drop it onto their smart drive and put
It's
it on
not
their
that
computer.
simple.
Not that simple?
No.
Okay, that's what my question was, how simple?
No,
is it?
it is very complicated, actually, so, yeah.
Okay, still on A. Director Senate.
So I appreciate the director's questions about where we are with policy. I'll have a subsequent, if it's appropriate, to follow up on this. Just I think what we would like to have is a really high overview snapshot from staff in terms of a report on how many policies are really there potentially, and if there is a way to start adding at least one or two policies that exist for review per meeting as a policy review process. So I mean, we don't have to start with all of them, but we could start with a couple and see as we go.
Okay, anyone else? Still on A? On receipt? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. B, that the corporate policy be prepared for the board's consideration to address the process of making grant applications.
I'll make that motion with the addition, if that's fine, that it be done before the year end.
Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried.
So I want to make a further motion that the staff bring back a very high-level report, giving the board an idea of the scope of the amount of policies that are out there that may not be available to the board easily, and the ability for staff to start scheduling policy review as a regular item on the agenda.
Do I have a second? Thank you. Discussion?
So at a certain point, that's our job. We have to know the policies and we have to apply them, and then we have to also think about whether we actually like these policies. So we've got to start somewhere. And I know from sitting on policy boards, if you can clean it up and get it down to a dull roar, you'll be much happier. We'll give more power to our staff, and we'll think about ways, like earlier today, we were talking about the money, how it was being spent at the Strathcona Regional District, the Strathcona Gardens. Sometimes you don't need to know all the details. You just need a report that's a one-liner from the CAO or the staff responsible saying, you once set a policy that says you can spend up to $3 million, and I'm letting you know we're in compliance. That's all you need. You just need to know every periodic thing that goes on, that everything's being run well. So it gets you to think about what you need to instead of looking at the details, and let the staff do their job.
Director Colburn?
I have a question about this because we are we are part of a separation of districts, and I know that creates issues for staff, that we have a lot of inherited, out of date, while I believe that this is important and this is something that we've tried to do through our council table at the municipal level, it often gets put off because there are other important things happening. There's always something that's up and coming in local government or downloaded. And I'm just wondering, even the high-level report, how much staff time that's going to take to wade through all of the inherited. I'm just curious, and I know that you're not gonna have an answer that says that it's gonna take me 7 hours, but if there's an idea of, or if the report could include how many inherited policies we have and the new ones that we're making. I don't know that that's a clear question.
I would say it's consuming. I think one thing that I've preached over the years is it takes an incredible amount of effort from the whole team to produce these reports and agendas. It's like Groundhog Day almost every day, because we have board, we have EASC, we have committee of the whole, we have municipal services. just the effort to bring what we have in front of you takes the whole team. So it sounds time consuming to me. And I mean, I'm happy to take direction from the board, but when you put a limit by the year end and it's November 1st on Friday, it's going to be challenging. So
Well, that was
something's gonna
for
drop
the,
off.
that was for the other policy. That was for the grant policy. For this, I'm trying to make a motion that we start proceeding down the road where we have some input. So you've just given me an idea that the amount of work is monumental. And that now tells me as a board member, we have to have a serious discussion of resourcing because we've got a big problem on our hand.
So how I try and accommodate that policy issue, whenever there's a report, a subject comes forward that connects to a policy, we try and integrate it in the report. So it's not a consolidated, here's all there, but when there is one, we find it, we refer to it, and at times it'll come from the old Comox Regional District. It'll be on papyrus paper and we'll get a motion to update it. But that's how we've chipped away at those policies. And then through orientation of new boards, every election, we try and run through those things to make the board. We've just introduced gas tax. We've just introduced allocation policies. So as we feel appropriate and necessary and attached items, they come forward in that motion. Consolidating them and tackling them, it feels consuming. And again, I say that because the resources to, Director Lanyon asked about how regional this, what capacity you're at. Here's how regional districts work, okay? And I'll use a public works example for it. So you got 2 public works guys and you've got 200 water connections. And then you get another community and you've got 250 connections, but you don't have enough for another guy. So you say to these 2 guys, work a little bit harder. And then you get another 50 connections. And you're like, well, we're not quite there, work a little harder. And then you get up to 400 connections. You say, okay, we can pay for another guy. You get a 3rd guy. And then you start the cycle again. So, the resources we have here, you're in every regional district, and I'm not trying to say woe is me, but we're always, the inherent nature of regional districts is you're always over capacity. So you prioritize thing, and then you get to capacity, and the next day you're over capacity because then that's just how you work. So one thing that's always underestimated is the level of effort just to support the boards and committees. It's way quicker to read a book than it is to write a book. And we're writing books every week. So we try, or I try, to find a more efficient, effective manner to do it. This motion, going back to Director Mawhinney's comments about why doesn't a cow motion that they put completely get cut and paste in here? Because I look at the motion and say it's impractical to move forward with this motion, but what we can do is we can create a policy in terms of it, and that will check the intent or the desire of the board. And so that's what I take liberty doing. So when we look at policies, I try to make sure the board is aware of important policies. Some of you have been around, some of you haven't. Some are more important than others, some are more timely, and when we have a report, I attach it to it. But funneling resources to attack policies, if the board thinks that that's important, that's fine and dandy. That may cause a resource issue because a lot of those resources are used to populate what you see in front of you. So that will detract from that.
So I appreciate the information. I still think it's worthwhile to have, at your reasonable interpretation for your time and resources, to have a high-level explanation to us, just like you've done right now, in a report to us, so then we can debate it and decide whether or not we want to pursue it any further. But we have responsibilities to carry out the policy and be aware of policy that are legal, and that is our board job. So I need to know the scope of the problem that's sitting behind us or potentially in front of us. And at some point, we have to deal with it. So we'll have to decide where those choices are going to be made in terms of allocation resources. That's with your input, because you've got to do all the other things. You have to tell us, if you do this, this is coming off the table. And so we have to understand the consequences. So I'm still going to keep my motion on the table, and let's see what happens.
Director Colburn? Director Colburn first.
And that's why I asked the question. Is, I know that, our CAO has a team behind him. And I also know that in my municipality, we have 2 people. So, and asking for that task, especially with all of the inherited, policies that were never even made by this district, could be a monumental task. And although I do know the importance of that, I think that may be a different, a budgetary concern, a different conversation, or maybe a committee of the whole conversation in that whole prioritizing. So if you'll read the motion out again, I'll see if I'll support it or not. But I did ask the question because I appreciate the commentary from the CAO and from the our legislative services department.
Well, I think you already seconded it, but if I recall, it was that we have a very high-level report setting out the scope of the number of policies that may impact us. And I'm trying to recall the other part, and bringing forward a plan potentially to review like 2 policies that exist as a policy review item on every agenda.
Director Wally.
I think you're attaching too much significance to policies. The board has no obligation or legal requirement to follow any policy. We do what we please. They're an indication perhaps of maybe where we'd like to go most of the time, but if you'll recall, there's been many examples at this board where the policy has been stated and we said, oh, well, so what? We're not going to do it anyway. So a policy is just a policy. It's just a recommendation. It doesn't mean a thing. It doesn't have to mean a thing.
Director Kerr.
Thank you, Chair. And I think you're missing the point. It's staff that follows policy. So if you've got a bunch of policies that you don't know about or don't care about, staff is still continuing to follow those policies.
And we overrule whenever we want.
Director Lanyon.
I think practically, if this was my business, I would say let's just identify the policies that are giving staff a headache. And let's deal with those ones. Because those will be a bit of a front-loaded investment with long-term payoff.
And I think that's what we tend to do. Like, for example, the allocation policy. I know there's probably 9/10 of the board that is not aware of how we allocate, having conversations with lots of you. I know it's appropriate to put that in front of you to go, this is how we do it. This is critically important, and kind of chip away at them in terms of what I feel is timely, important, critical, so on and so forth. But if you want to do another way, happy to do so.
I think until we deal with our capacity issues, we have to, it can be a desire, but I don't think we have the bandwidth right now, even as much as I would love to. I think it's just going to be a practical reality for us. And there will be disagreements about that policy, and it will eat up hours of agenda time, meeting time. So I'm just worried about that. We could put everyone gets 10 seconds to say their bit and we move on policy as attached to that review. But I am not interested in having 3-hour debates over wording.
Director Von Esch.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I think I concur with Director Lanyon and what the CAO is saying. And I really appreciate, like the Advisory Planning Commission for Cortez, where, okay, we're coming into play starting January. Let's review that policy as it becomes important to review. And I think that's one of the things I have appreciated, is that these policies are coming out for us to review as they become necessary for us to review, rather than jumping them all into it. It seems like a huge task, so I won't be supporting this.
Director Senate for the final word.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair. So I just want people to understand policy that we're talking about here is sort of the old embedded ideas of thou shalt do this and that and the other thing. But if we actually work towards a proper review of policy, we'll be talking mostly about ourselves and whether we're acting appropriately. So the main thing of policy, if you want to do proper governance, is what good are we doing for who at what relative cost? So you always ask that question when you're developing things. So we're talking about delving into areas which I would hope in terms of staff capacity policies, the idea of how do we govern ourselves? Are we sticking with our strategic objectives? In other words, the end results that we're trying to achieve? And do we still agree with those end results? And do we properly finance and govern ourselves and educate ourselves to be better governors and leaders? So I am a little disappointed, but I do understand that I'll keep pushing this rock up the hill because I do think at the end of the day, once you get your policy governance in place, you free your staff to actually do work according to their reasonable interpretation, and you spend time monitoring the results and looking at yourself in a more organized and simplified way. And in a lot of organizations, you literally start from scratch and just let a lot of those existing policies become operational of the staff, and you just do high-end things that sort of control our behavior and let us become better at our job. But thank you for listening.
Like Susan's right. Like she is not wrong. We need to do this at some point. I would love to know, like, because we've had policies building since 19 whatever, right? Just so long, and so it's got to feel like the Bible in some ways, where you've got what would appear to be conflicting policies that are arcane, and most of them we don't even ever look at anymore. But if we have more than, I'm going to say, 100 pages of policy, no staff member is going to be intimately acquainted with those. And there could be contradictions in the arcane tomes that they would not be aware of, could be held to. So I think we may have just gotten old enough as an organization where we have to do a fresh start. But that would be something we would budget time for, probably a consultant, and really just build up, maybe even use AI, dump it all in there and say, summarize this into a different way of looking at it. But I think if we do have more policy that is binding on staff, then staff could reasonably be expected to understand we have a major problem. It's the Bible now. Like it's, you'd have to study it for years to become acquainted enough to actually follow it. So it's ineffectual policy if it's like that.
Well, if I can just chime in, Director Lott is online, but you're right too. Like even the staffing here is, a living group, right? And to have an expectation that everybody is even familiar with it. I mean, there's planners that started here a month or two ago. I don't have a clue about most of the policies, right? So, yeah, I don't disagree. It feels right now like a daunting task, and I feel like we have a bite-sized methodology for attacking it. That's just my opinion. I don't make decisions, but that's just my feeling, and I'm not disagreeing with it. And just looking at the resource, the expectation, the timeliness of things coming forward. And the group that brings a lot of that forward is the group that's responsible for doing that. So there's a bit of a resource, challenge there, I see. And in the meantime, I feel confident that there is an approach that that we address things on a timely, importance, matter, sensitivity, whatever it be, in relation to the things we're talking about.
Director Lott.
Thank you, Chair. This is deja vu for me. My council went through this when we first got elected. We were a completely green council. Nobody had any experience before. So obviously we didn't have that background there. But we did realize as we went through our instructional process with our CAO that we had a fiduciary obligation to be conversant with policies and for bylaws. So when you look at that, that was a daunting task because there's so much, our community's been established in 1965, bylaws, and policies go back to 1965. So there's a lot of information there. And we're wondering how we could be effective as decision makers for the community if we didn't know all that information. And basically the compromise that we had to come down to was that we had to entrust that the professionals that we hire, which are CEO, corporate officer, financial officer, whoever's portfolio it falls into, are going to attach the appropriate policies or bylaws for us to consider when we're looking at any of the issues that were brought before us. And that was a model that we've embraced. We trust our staff to bring forward the policies and the appropriate bylaws that pertain to any of the public issues that might be coming before our council. Conversely, what we realized we had to do is we had an obligation to educate ourselves. So we were very fortunate that that our CAO was able to had all of our policies basically, on a file, and he was able to put those files into our council accounts so that we could actually reference them. So every single policy that we had is I understand what our corporate officer is saying. He's in the process of doing that. We had that done, so he could just pass that file on to us. And we felt as a council that'd be our obligation to familiarize ourselves with that policy. That's part of our responsibility to educate ourselves and to reference those policies, if an issue was coming before council that pertained to one of those policies or bylaws. And so we had a policy file and a bylaw file. And it's extensive. There's an enormous amount of information there. When you think about how long, our communities have been in place and our decision makers before us and how many decisions that they've actually made. But the model that we adopted is that we hire professional staff. It's their responsibility to make sure that the appropriate policies and bylaws are attached to any of the issues that come before the board or the council for us to discuss. That's their responsibility. Our responsibility is to make sure that we're familiar with them and learn them or can reference them. So I understand where Director Senat's coming from. I understand that and part of me supportive of it, but at the same time, I just don't think that it's that we have the capacity to do that. So I'm looking at it saying that the compromise would be if our corporate officer could get us a file that included our policies, included our bylaws, and put it into our portals, and we have that access to that information. We can start looking on that on our own rather than tying up all our board time like Lanyon had referred to. So I'm comfortable with staff bringing these policies and bylaws before us for any issues that we're dealing with at the board. And I'd also like to see that those files be incorporated in our director portals. I know it might take some time, but whatever you got, put them in so that at least we can reference stuff and learn stuff and become more familiar with it. So that's my thoughts. Thanks for hearing me out.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor. We're going to call the question. All in favor? Opposed?
Call it names, please.
We have Director Rice opposed, Director Wally opposed, Director Mawhinney opposed, and Director Von Esch opposed. The motion passes. Number 22, Director Davis, would you like to take that?
That's a Sayward thing.
Is that a Sayward
Yes.
thing? I apologize.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would move that report from the CEO be received on rural economic diversification infrastructure program grants.
Second.
Second.
Renee will speak to this, Mr. Chair.
All right, the report before you is to consider the submission of 2 grant applications to the Rural Economic Diversification and Infrastructure Program. This is the 3rd intake of this program, and the Strathcona Regional District may submit 1 application on behalf of the entire region and 1 for each electoral area. 2 projects are proposed for this intake, one being the Walters Island Boardwalk and Trail Enhancement Project and the Rural Engagement and Communications Coordinator. The Cayucot Community Association has advocated for many years to rehabilitate the trail that is along the waterfront that connects homes and businesses. It's the only transportation infrastructure in the community and is on a Modi right-of-way. In partnership with the association, the SRD could apply to this fund to have it rehabilitated. Many areas are currently unsafe along that boardwalk. It's on a Modi right-of-way, and Modi has done some boardwalk infrastructure, but the entire trail does need rehabilitated. This project is eligible for the program. In addition to making the trail safer for the locals, it supports tourism and is also in alignment with Cayucot Checkliset's aspirations to increase tourism in the Cayucot Sound. They've invested significantly into some tourism assets at Fair Harbor and encouraged tourism in the Cayucot Sound. It also supports the SRD's strategic priority to consider transportation initiatives that support the movement of people and goods in the region. The second project to consider is for the part-time rural engagement coordinator. This position would be part-time and would build internal capacity to the SRD's communication department. It also supports the implementation of the North Island Labour Market Study recommendations, and we would be doing those in collaboration with the Regional District of Mount Waddington and the City of Campbell River. Essentially, it increases our ability for enhanced marketing and communication from the SRD. So there is the two separate recommendations before you regarding these grants.
Director Wally?
Yeah, thank you, Renee. Just mention that this is the only avenue of moving from one house to the other on Walters Island, is this particular boardwalk that's falling apart. And it's critical that we fix that. The other thing I wanted to point out to you is the $75,000 in gas tax funds. We've talked about gas funds before, and I remember Director Lanyon saying, "Oh, I just raised taxes," but you got to realize there's only 20 properties here that are tax-paying properties. There's no way you can raise $75,000 out of 20 properties, and that's just one project. The other one, the community hall that'll come next, will probably take another 100,000 or so. So that's where our gas tax goes to, and that's why it's critical for us to have that.
Okay. Any other questions, Director Lanyon?
Well, I just said it displaces what would be requisition. I didn't say raise taxes, so I'll just refute that. I don't think I did, and if I did, I apologize. And is there really, would you say there's only 20 accessible properties in Area A? And there's 200?
Hey, this is
Oh.
service area, which is
Oh.
Walters Island.
Oh, Walters Island. Oh, I see. Yeah.
They were across the other side when we had that meeting in Puskatas and Cayucot.
Okay, but like if you were raising taxes, it would be on all of Area A, not just Walters Island, no?
This is a special service area.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, no, Sayward's not going to pay for Cayucot. Sayward doesn't pay for Cayucot. Darn.
Okay, any other questions? Anybody questions for Renee? Director Von Esch.
Thank you, Chair. I had a question about the rural engagement coordinator. Like just looking for more specifics on like what exactly are they going to be marketing and communicating?
That would be enhancing and doing further outreach to our rural areas. We do complete some of that, increased engagement with businesses, First Nations economic development corporations, kind of on that ECDEV perspective, working on partnerships, whether it be through tourism, if there's, an area is looking to expand tourism. This is where the Rural Engagement Coordinator could support in developing collateral, marketing collateral, but it's also supports our website content that we would, be putting that information on. We've had a lot of surveys for this different plans that a number of the other departments are working on, and we could use that extra support in the communications area.
Thank you. Director Mulvaney, you had your hand up.
I did. Thank you, Chair. I'm fully in support of the motion for the Cayucit Community Association Boardwalk Trail improvements. But I do have some concerns with the second motion for funding internal capacity for engaging and communicating. The report states that in 2023, an SRD application for a regional tourism development position was not awarded funds. And to be frank, I think that this new application for enhancing marketing efforts sounds a lot like a regional tourism development position of 2023. The report stated that this coordinator would explore initiatives to develop robust economic conditions and enhance marketing efforts and so far. And also, as Renee just stated, that it would, as well as economic development and tourism, it's going to speak to internal projects. And I think that if we need to increase funding to provide proper community engagement, that is something that we should be funding from within and not relying on a provincial grant. And as well as that thought, I just want to add that, we've been talking a lot recently, and we have that motion that Director Sinnott made, which we're going to look at sort of grant applications and the long-term ramifications of those. So I know that this is for a 2-year position to enhance economic development and tourism. But as far as I'm aware, we here at the Regional District have not made any plans or explored either an economic development service or a tourism service. And I think that those conversations from the board level are well placed to happen before a grant application and not after.
Okay.
And I have one more point, if I may, Chair. Thank you. And the report also talks about that regional districts are discouraged from submitting multiple grants in a category. And I know that there is an application for economic capacity, which the Discovery Islands Chamber of Commerce has been working very hard on. It's an application to the same funding stream. And I've heard that there are 3 applications from Cortez. So the board supporting this motion puts us directly into competition with community groups who know the needs of their communities and the volunteers who have spent countless hours crafting their submissions. Last year, the CAO came to our Electoral Area Services Committee meeting about this grant and suggested that we talk to our communities about it. And I did talk to the Chamber of Commerce about it. At that point, they didn't have capacity to apply. And since then, the volunteer board members have worked really hard on this year's application. The Chamber represents over 80 members. Their application includes developing a comprehensive sustainable tourism plan, providing reconciliation education to tourism operators and island businesses, and increasing fluency in human resources and financial acuity. These initiatives are community-driven and address identified community needs. I think that supporting this SRD capacity application puts local applications in jeopardy for a project which the board has not had presented or considered the future financial impacts of. So I'm in favor of the first, but not the second.
Okay, thank you. Still on receipt. All in favor? No, Director Sinnott has one on receipt?
Well, it was following up the questions with staff on the report. May I continue, Chair? Thank you.
By all means.
Well, thank you very much, staff, for the report. So when I'm sitting there looking at the economic development capacity, and it's for the rural areas, so how does that impact the City of Campbell River's involvement? Because we do have an economic development capacity internally. Is it just to work with them, or do they provide some support so that they can help the other areas with their already existing? I'm just trying to think, because we don't have a defined idea what the goal is in this report. It talks about website development, engagement strategy, regional business. So I have ideas in my head. I'm thinking, wow, it'd be really great if we learned more about the First Nations involvement in all the timber, so that we can support that and make sure that we're not, going against each other in different departments, to make sure we've got economic vibrancy, especially in places that have suffered for so long with historical disadvantages. That may not be anything we get out of this. So can you explain a little bit more what the actual objectives are going to be? Because I'm not quite clear. I mean, I'm all for it, but then I'm thinking, I don't want to see another person that sits at a desk and makes 3 phone calls and says, well, I put an ad in the newspaper and did those things.
Yes. In 2024, there was the North Island Labor Market study that was brought to both the City of Campbell River and to the SRD here. And many of the recommendations in there are about collaborating on recruitment. And recruitment for employees across a number of sectors, including healthcare, was a big line item. So this would be collaborating with the regional districts, the city, to work on campaigns around recruitment for those sectors. And those sectors included aquaculture, forestry, healthcare, and tourism. So I would see a bulk of the work working in partnership to get some of those recommendations worked through.
If I may, can I follow up? I understand that the labor study was done. We have a different economic landscape that's emerging in the last 2 years with the reduction in permits, the new election with the province, and potentially more green initiatives that are going to, again, hamper potential forestry issues. And so I want to be assured that we have the flexibility to redefine some of those outcomes other than just recruitment. I know there are tensions in recruitment, but I also see that there are new objectives to maintain vibrancy. We can't forget we are a resource-based area, and tourism is somewhat important. I just want to see it be sort of a living sort of position that can be changed. Or are we stuck with the labor outcomes in recruitment?
Okay, first, Director Jack.
Yes, thank you. No, I'm excited with the conversation. Basically, Cayucot, whether it be Hoopsatas or Walters Island, we are heavily reliant on tourism, and just in speaking to the walkway and all of that. The population in Hoopsatas, including across the bay, is under 200 people throughout the year. But in the summertime, that spikes right up to, I don't know, we have like 8 lodges that have popped up in the last 20 years. And so that just goes to show that, our summer employment goes up, and then the amount of tourists that come in, there's kayak companies coming in now and all that kind of stuff. So these boardwalks and everything get used quite heavily, and just for the safety standards, where their muster point is on Walters Island, they're reliant on that boardwalk and the trail, and which over the years has grown in quite a bit, just again going back that we are very reliant on tourism, and that's where we've been developing a lot of our economy right now. Is in purchasing. We've purchased a couple lodges now, or maybe 3 lodges now. Our nation has purchased, and they 2 of them are on Walters Island, and so there's great importance this is the area we're developing. This is where we're heavily reliant on income for our community, and 75% of our community is very reliant on the work that comes with all the businesses that exist on Walters Island and surrounding islands. And so, thank you.
On receipt, all in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Go ahead.
I move that a grant application to the Rural Economic Diversion Infrastructure Grant Program be submitted in partnership with the Cayucot Community Association for boardwalk and trail improvements on Walters Island, and that 20% of the project funding be approved from the Area A Community Works funding to a maximum of $75,000.
Second.
We have Director Rice, second. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried.
I would further move that a grant application to the Rural Economic Diversification Infrastructure Grant Program Economic Capacity Stream not, I emphasize not, be submitted to support a rural engagement and communication coordinator position at this time.
I'll second that.
Director Ranesh, discussion? All in favor? Opposed?
2 opposed.
3 opposed.
Who's the third?
Okay, motion is carried. Thank you.
How many were opposed?
3.
So wouldn't that be defeated? Oh, it's carried. I'm sorry, you're right. I made a negative motion. I'm sorry.
It's all good.
Had me worried.
We did not never do that, no.
Pardon me?
We did not never do that, no.
Okay, so we did C. Okay, 23. Go ahead, Director Wally.
I would move that the report of the Chief Administration Officer be received for the request for financial assistance for the Sayward Secret Santa.
Second. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried.
I move, Mr. Chair, that a grant and aid for the Sayward Secret Santa, care of the Village of Sayward, be paid from Electoral Area A grant and aid budget in the amount of $500 to assist with providing 2024 Christmas hampers and gifts to Sayward families in need.
Perfect.
Second that.
And I'll just speak to that, Mr. Chair. The reason why it goes to the Village of Sayward isn't because I'm funding the village, which is against policy, God forbid. But the village collects this money, then they turn it over to the Valley resident who buys these gifts. Then she provides a full list of her expenditures, so that can be verified that it went to the right place. And that's how it works.
Okay. Number 24. Nope. We didn't vote? I guess we'll vote. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Number 24. Director Davis.
I'll take that. Thank you, Chair.
Director
Are you doing this
Vodash.
on- are you doing this on purpose today, or is it
No.
age shown here?
Go, sorry? The meeting? It's already 3:30.
End time.
There's no end time. Director Davis, sorry?
Cortez Island Parent Advisory Council request for funding. I move that the report from the CAO be received.
Second.
Director Colburn, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. B.
I move that a grant and aid for the Cortez Island School Parent Advisory Council in the amount of $5,000 to assist with the setup of a community accessible multimedia room be paid from the Electoral Area B grant and aid budget.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Director Rice, discussion? Director Senate?
My understanding that this runs close to line, if not over the line, in terms of policy with respect to aiding school district, provincial government undertaking. We also have what it seems to be something that's square in the realm of the regional library. In other words, assistance for learning, and I don't see why we would be paying it out of our particular budgets in terms of assisting government when it's so close to the policy line. So I'm against.
Okay, anyone else? Director Vodash?
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to address that. This is for extracurricular activities for the whole community. So I think it's on the right side of the policy line. Just also want to, this is Cortez tax requisition paying for Cortez projects. So there's no cost to anybody else here around the table. Thank you.
Good. All in favor? Opposed? 2 opposed. The motion is carried. Bylaws. Okay, let's start off with Director Davis. Let's give it a shot. I'm not sure. We'll give it a shot.
Okay, bylaw number 568, corporate office lease, that the report from the chief administrative officer be received.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. B, please. Yes, please.
Bylaw number 568 being a bylaw to authorize entering into a lease agreement for part of the Regional District's corporate office building be now introduced and read a first time.
Second.
Director Colburn, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. C,
That the rules be suspended and bylaw number 568 be given second and third readings.
Second.
Director Colburn, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. D,
That bylaw number 568 being corporate office lease agreement authorization bylaw 2024 be now reconsidered, finally passed and adopted.
Second.
Director Colburn, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Thank you. Director Morwini, do you want to take number 2, please?
Sure can. Bylaw number 574, Desolation Sound Bulk Water Regulation. I would move that the report from the Chief Administrative Officer be received.
Second.
Second, Director Rice, discussion? All in favor? Oh, discussion, sorry. Director Sinnott.
Yeah, this is the only one we vote on as regular directors. I know we'll vote for receipt. I just want to reiterate my concerns, the similar ones from the prior bulk water bylaws, that this is outside or goes very close to the purview of the province's jurisdiction. And I'm not in agreement because I think the actual purpose of these bylaws is to regulate water use in aquifers and not actually the activity. I don't think there's really anybody proposing to bottle anything in these areas, but I think this is a incorrect use of our authority. Thank you.
Anyone else? No? All in favor of receipt? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. B,
I will move that bylaw number 574, being a bylaw to amend the land use regulations applicable to the Desolation Sound rural land use area, be now introduced and read a first time.
do I have a second?
Second.
Director Rice, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried.
And I'll move that bylaw number 574 be given second reading.
Second.
Director Rice, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. D,
I will move that a virtual public hearing to consider bylaw number 574 be scheduled for 6:30 p.m. on Thursday, November 14th, 2024, and that the holding of the public hearing be delegated to the Electoral Area C Director.
Second.
Director Rice, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Continue on there, Director Mawini.
Alrighty, Chair. Bylaw number 577, Desolation Sound Rural Land Use Bylaw Amendments. I would move that the report from the Chief Administrative Officer be received.
Second.
Second, Director Colburn. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. B,
I will move B, that bylaw number 577, being a bylaw to amend the land use regulations applicable to the Desolation Sound rural land use area, be now introduced and read a first time.
Director Wally, second. Discussion?
Thank you.
All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried.
I will move C, that bylaw number 577 be given second reading.
Second.
Director Rice, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. D,
I will move D, that a virtual public hearing on bylaw number 577 be scheduled immediately following the public hearing on bylaw number 574 on Thursday, November 14th, 2024, and that the holding of the public hearing be delegated to the Electoral Area C Director.
Second.
Director Rice, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Thank you. We'll go to Director Wally.
Bylaw number 578, Men's Bay Area zoning bylaw, move that the report from the CEO be received.
Second.
Director Rice, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried.
Move
B,
that bylaw number 578 be given third reading.
Second.
Director Rice, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried.
And finally, I move that bylaw number 578, being Menzies Bay Area Zoning Bylaw 1996, Amendment number 14, be reconsidered, finally passed, and adopted.
Second.
Director Rice, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Director Rice.
Bylaw number 580, Electoral Area D zoning amendment. I'd like to move that the report from the Chief Administration Officer be received.
Second.
Director Wally, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried.
I'd like to move item B, that the bylaw number 580, being a bylaw to amend the zoning regulations applicable to Electoral Area D, be now introduced and read a first time.
Second.
Director Wally, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried.
I'd like to move option C, that the rules be suspended and bylaw number 580 be given second and third readings.
Second.
Director Wally, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried.
I'd like to move D, that bylaw number 580, being Campbell River Area Zoning Bylaw 1991, amendment number 77, be reconsidered, finally passed, and adopted.
Second.
Director Wally, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Number 6, Director Rice.
Bylaw number 581, Electoral Area D Wood Debris Removal Service. I'd like to move that the report from the Chief Administration Officer be received.
Second.
Director Wally, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried.
Like to move item B, that bylaw number 581, being a bylaw to authorize the provision of wood debris removal service in Electoral Area D, Oyster Bay, Buttle Lake, be now introduced and read a first time.
Second.
Director Wally, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried.
Like to move item C, that the rules be suspended and bylaw number 581 be given second and third readings.
Second.
Director Wally, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried.
Like to move item D, that the approval of the electorals be authorized to be obtained using the alternate approval process.
Second.
Director Wally, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Number 7, Director Mawhinney.
Thank you, Chair. I will move bylaw number 582, Quadra Island Zoning Amendment, Crescent Channel Enterprises, that the report from the Chief Administrative Officer be received.
Second.
Second was Director Colburn. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried.
I'll move that bylaw number 582, being a bylaw to amend the zoning regulations applicable to Quadra Island, be now introduced and read a first time.
Second.
Director Rice, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried.
I would like to move that the rules be suspended and bylaw number 582 be given second and third readings.
Second.
Director Rice, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried.
And I will move D, that bylaw number 582, being Quadra Island Zoning Bylaw 1990, amendment number 149, be now reconsidered, finally passed, and adopted.
Second.
Director Rice, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried.
And I will move E, that a report be prepared on the obligations, responsibilities, and consequences associated with Strathcona Regional District being a signatory on conservation covenants.
Second.
Director Rice, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Director Rice.
Bylaw number 583, Campbell River Area Zoning Bylaw Amendment. I'd like to move that the report from the Chief Administration Officer be received.
Second.
Director Wally, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried.
I'd like to move that bylaw number 583, being the bylaw to amend the zoning regulations applicable to electoral area D, be now introduced and read a first time.
Second.
Director Wally, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried.
I'd like to move item C, that the rules be suspended and bylaw number 583 be given second and third readings.
Second.
Director Wally, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried.
I'd like to move item D, that bylaw number 583 be in Campbell River Area Zoning Bylaw number 1991, amendment number 78, be now reconsidered, finally passed, and adopted.
Second.
Director Wally, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. I'm sorry? No. Number 9, financial plan amendment. May the report from the CAO be received.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion's carried. The bylaw 584, being the bylaw to amend 2024-2028 financial plan and capital expenditure program, now be introduced and read for the first time.
Second.
So moved.
Discussion?
Oh.
It's okay.
Director Wally moved it. Director Colburn seconded it. We're just a little backwards. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. That the rules be suspended for bylaw 584, be given second and third reading.
So moved.
Second.
Director Wally, second. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. The bylaw 584 being the 2024-2028 financial plan and capital expenditure program bylaw amendment number 1 be reconsidered, finally passed and adopted.
So moved.
Second.
Director Colburn, Director Wally. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Correspondence.
I'll move receipt.
1 through 11.
Chair, if I may, I'd like to pull number 3 and 10, please.
And I'd like
Number
to,
2.
sorry.
You said, Bonnie said number 2, and 3 and 10 for Director Mawini.
11.
Move receipt of all the others.
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. We'll start with Director Van Esch, number 2.
Thank you, Chair. Just want to appreciate all the Cortez nonprofits that signed on to this with concerns around the grant and aid policy update. You know, I think one of the things that has really been a success on Cortez is having our community foundation run a jury process where they gather people in the community that are not associated with the nonprofits that are applying and have them go through a robust process and make the difficult choices, make the difficult recommendations for the grants that are supported. So And, I think there's also some real concerns around the restrictions that are being suggested. I know we're still looking at a really early draft, but particularly around, not being able to pay wages, overhead, contractors, administration, insurance, key things that small nonprofits require. Thank you.
Director Von Esch, do you want to move to receive number 2, please?
I'll move to receive number 2.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Number 3, move to receive.
Receipt of the Discovery Islands Economic Development Coordinator correspondence.
Second.
Second, Director Rice. Discussion. Go ahead, Ms. Director Mawhinney.
Thank you, Chair. As I mentioned earlier, the Discovery Islands Chamber of Commerce has been hard at work consulting with their members and building a project to enhance economic resilience and diversity, plan for sustainable tourism, and build the capacity of local businesses with professional development. I trust that following the vote on receipt, the board will vote in favor of a motion that I'm proposing, which is to support their application with a letter of support. So I would like a subsequent following receipt, if I may, Chair.
Right. So we are there. We are on receipt. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. That's on receipt.
Thank you, Chair.
Go ahead.
And I have a subsequent, if I may. Thank you. I'd like to move that the SRD submit a letter of support for the Discovery Islands Chamber of Commerce REDIP capacity building application, and that the letter is submitted to the REDIP agency prior to the end of day, October 31st, 2024, because I believe that's the cutoff date.
Second was Director Wally. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried.
Thank you.
Number 10, Director Mawhinney.
Thank you. I would like to move receipt of the correspondence titled Surplus School District Land.
Second.
Director Rice, second. Discussion?
If I may, Chair?
Please.
Thank you. I just wanted to say that I am a little disappointed to see this response from School District 72. The property that we've been discussing has been unused for 60 years. And through the meeting that we had when we were at UBCM with ministry staff, they indicated that they have a strong preference for lots which are a minimum of 10 acres. And the lot that we've been trying to discuss with the SD72 is 5 acres and is intersected by a road. So I was really hoping for some recognition of the urgency of the housing crisis and progressive thinking, and unfortunately that doesn't appear to have happened in this case, at least not yet. At the school district liaison meeting, I did learn that the school district is working on a long-range facility plan, which will likely be complete by the end of the school year, and I'm hoping that our staff and myself could potentially follow up with them at that point.
Okay, thank you. Further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. I'm sorry? Number 11.
That the October 25th, 2024 correspondence from the province of BC regarding issues raised at UBCM convention be received.
Second, Director Wally, discussion. All in favor?
My discussion on this is just kind of an update to you. I mean, it speaks very plainly. We have applied for grants before, and that's essentially where this is directing us. I still believe that it is worth us for a small contingent to go down to Victoria, that it would include the CAO, the chair, myself as mayor, and talk to the ministries concerned. The staff is not who makes those decisions. I think we need to go directly to the ministers and have them say to each other, or have us say to them, you figure it out. You figure out who's responsible. This is what we've done. There's a long correspondence history that we have. We've done all we can. And I don't know how else to move forward except to go down there, so. I don't know if that is a motion, the subsequent that would need to come out of this. Perfect.
Okay, so all in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried on receipt.
And then, so the motion I'm proposing is that a small delegation go directly to Victoria to discuss with the ministers concerned, Modi, Forest, Emergency Management. That includes myself as Mayor, Chair Baker, the CEO of both organizations, highlighting the issues we've faced, who is responsible for the safety, and the history of our process that's bringing us to them. So I have that in writing if you need it.
I'll second that.
Director Boness, second.
And like I said, to speak to it, I don't know what else to do. There's nothing else to do.
No, I understand. Director Senate?
Yeah, so I'd recommend that you include your affected First Nations if they are interested in participating in this delegation. The other thing is it wouldn't hurt to actually bring some multimedia video that you're ready to put up on social media to highlight the difficulties at night and bad weather and the dangers that people face, including if you have any testimonials, so that sometimes people who are living in cities don't understand. So I think you have to bring it home to them in a way that is more alive. And I would support, if we want to amend it, that the SRD spends some staff resources on putting that presentation together.
Go ahead, Director Colburn.
I don't think it's needed, and there's a clear history and a lot of information that was brought to both UBCM from ourselves and from the village, so. Thank you for your suggestion.
All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Okay, members report. Director Rice.
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick report. I've got two motions there. Essentially, we're coming up on tax time again pretty quick here. A lot of my constituents in Area D have had an opportunity to take a look at their taxes now, and fire protection was one of the big alarm bells. So I'm basically trying to put out in the public some transparency on what things are costing. So I do have two motions there. First motion is as per paragraph 2. So this is right from the fire protection service agreement. So as per paragraph 2 of the Campbell River Fire Protection Service Area with Area D, that staff prepare a report for the November 2024 regional board meeting that includes the 2023 and 2024 detailed budget for operational, maintenance, and such capital items deemed to be necessary to the efficient operation of said fire department.
We should just vote on receipt.
Motion to receive. Director Wally.
Second.
Second, Director Colburn. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion's carried. Go ahead.
So motion number 1 is as per paragraph 2 of the Campbell River Fire Protection Service agreement with Area D, that staff prepare a report for the November 2024 regional board meeting that includes the 2023-2024 detailed budget for operational maintenance and such capital items deemed to be necessary to the efficient operation of said fire department.
Director Wally, second. Discussion. Director Senate.
So I'm just trying to understand the efficient operation of said fire department being the Campbell River Fire Department or some other fire department?
This is wording right out of the fire service agreement. So that's why I've taken it right out. And this is information that should have been submitted last year. So for 2023, this is information that the regional district should have got by February of last year. And for 2024, this is information that the regional district should have got in February of this year.
I guess I just want to have staff's interpretation of what they're doing.
Of who's doing?
If we pass this motion, what are you guys doing? That staff prepare a report for this meeting that's coming up for the operations, maintenance, and such capital necessary to the efficient operation of said fire department? Is that, you're actually going to revise what Campbell River does? Or are you actually doing
No.
it for your fire service? Is there a typo or something in this, or?
Well, no, the first time I've seen the motion, but the word necessary to the efficient, that is going to be subjective. So here, I think I know what the director's getting to is the agreement with Campbell River Fire and Area D is very old. And it basically, I'll paraphrase, but it says we pay a percentage of everything that goes into the fire department. So I'll give a kind of example that came to the attention of the board several years ago. It was a ladder truck. So Campbell River the fire department bought a ladder truck several years ago, and Area D makes a contribution to that. So the tricky part here is deemed necessary, and the word said is it's the Campbell River Fire Department. So it's a little subjective. We can do our best, but I'm certainly not going to tell you what. I mean, I'm not a firefighter or fire professional, so what's necessary will be. I mean, we'll do our best here, but we can easily identify the operational maintenance and capital items in the budget. But what part of those are deemed necessary, that is going to be the tricky part.
Well, good luck. I mean, we did set the operational standards about 4 months ago for the fire department, maybe a bit longer, by motion at City Council. That's available to you, which included basically, you know, the full EMS service level that our fire department provides. So they do more than just fire, so I'm not sure what the relationship within the agreement is, but I think it's going to be a difficult one given the provincial downloading of services into our area. You can see how much work we're doing, doing what the province should be doing. So interesting conversation. Good luck.
I'm happy to receive whatever the city has already forwarded, but this is information that, like I said, should have been sent last year and this year, and I believe it has been. So I'm just trying to bring that information into the public eye.
Okay, thank you. We have the first motion on the floor. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Number 2, please.
Second motion, and I do need to make an amendment on it. I have the dates wrong on that. So I would like to amend the motion for the dates to read from 2022 and 2023.
That's what it says. Is it?
That's what we got.
Yep. So as per paragraph 3 of the Campbell River Fire Protection Service Area with Area D, that staff prepare a report for the November 2024 Regional Board meeting that includes the full financial statement of the operation of the Fire Protection Service with Area D for 2022 and 2023 fiscal years.
Do you have a motion on the floor? Do I have a second? Thank you. Director Wally, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Thank you. And under closed session.
Receipt of the CEO's report.
Second?
Thank you. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. B,
I move that the meeting be closed to the public to consider matters deemed to fall within the parameters of subsection 91 F, G, I, N, and O of the Community Charter.
Second?
further discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried. Should we have a motion to, with the staff stay here until the bid